Hello everyone, and welcome back to Ace Book Talk. Today, we are diving into a chilling novella that has haunted readers for over a century, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. Henry James, an American-born author who spent much of his life in Europe, was a master of psychological realism. Born in 1843, he explored the complexities of human consciousness and relationships in his works. He often focused on the contrast between American and European cultures, and his writing is known for its subtlety and intricate prose. The Turn of the Screw, published in 1898, stands as a quintessential example of the Coast story, but it's also much more than that. It's a psychological exploration of perception, reality, and the power of suggestion. The story's ambiguity has fueled countless interpretations and debates, making it a fascinating subject for discussion. The novella unfolds through the gaze of an unnamed governess who takes a position at Blee, a seemingly idyllic country estate. She is entrusted with the care of two young children, Miles and Flora, who are remarkably beautiful and precocious. From the outset, there's an unsettling atmosphere. The governess is warned about the children's former caretaker, Miss Jessel, and her relationship with Peter Quint, a valet who is now dead. Soon after her arrival, the governess begins to see apparitions of these figures. The governess becomes convinced that the ghosts of Quint and Miss Jessel are attempting to corrupt the children. She becomes increasingly protective and determined to save Miles and Flora from their influence. She confides her fears to Mrs. Gross, the housekeeper, who provides a mixture of support and skepticism. Mrs. Gross confirms the past relationship between Quint and Miss Jessel, adding fuel to the governess's anxieties. The governess narrative becomes increasingly intense as she witnesses more sightings and interprets the children's behavior as evidence of their possession. The children themselves are enigmatic. Miles is expelled from school for reasons that remain unclear, adding to the sense of unease. Flora, initially presented as an angelic child, becomes increasingly secretive and defensive. The governess interprets their actions as signs that they are in contact with the ghosts. She feels a growing responsibility to protect them, even if it means confronting the supernatural forces she believes are at play. The climax arrives when the governess confronts Miles about his interactions with Peter Quint's host. In a dramatic scene, she demands that Miles acknowledge Quint's presence, but Miles, under immense pressure, cries out Quint's name and then dies. Flora, witnessing the governess' distress, vehemently denies seeing any ghosts and expresses a strong dislike for the governess, siding with Mrs. Gross. The story concludes with the governess alone, having seemingly failed to save the children and possibly contributing to Miles' death. The brilliance of The Turn of the Screw lies in its ambiguity. Is the governess truly seeing ghosts, or are her visions a product of her own repressed desires and anxieties? This is the question that has captivated readers for generations. The story can be interpreted as a classic ghost story with supernatural forces preying on innocent children. Alternatively, it can be seen as a psychological study of a woman driven to madness by her own fears and insecurities. One reading suggests the governess, isolated and inexperienced, projects her own anxieties onto the children. Her obsession with their innocence and her fear of corruption might lead her to misinterpret their behavior. The costs, in this interpretation, are manifestations of her own subconscious fears and desires. Another interpretation focuses on the social context of the story. The governess is a woman in a patriarchal society with limited power and agency. Her position as a governess places her in a precarious social position, and her desire to prove herself might contribute to her overzealousness. Ultimately, The Turn of the Screw offers no definitive answers. The ambiguity is intentional, forcing the reader to confront their own biases and assumptions. It challenges us to question the reliability of narration and the nature of reality itself. What can we learn from this haunting tale? Perhaps the most important lesson is the power of perception and the dangers of unchecked imagination. The governess's unwavering belief in her own interpretation of events leads to tragic consequences. It reminds us to be mindful of our own biases and to consider alternative perspectives. The story also highlights the importance of communication and trust. The governess's inability to effectively communicate with the children and Mrs. Gross exacerbates the situation, leading to misunderstanding and ultimately tragedy. Finally, the turn of the screw serves as a cautionary tale about the seductive nature of certainty. In a world filled with uncertainty, it's tempting to cling to simple explanations, but true understanding requires a willingness to embrace ambiguity and complexity. Thank you for joining me on Ace Book Talk. I hope you found this exploration of Henry James's The Turn of the Screw thought-provoking. Don't forget to leave a comment with your own interpretation of the story. Subscribe for more book recommendations.